The evidence photos were taken over 10 hours after the shooter took his own life.
10 hours later, and the pool of blood hasn't dried up yet?
That's why they are now changing up the photo by adding a darker filter to later just cropping out the fake blood.
Also, if the shooter wrote 3 manifestos and knew he was going to die, why is he wearing latex or nitrile gloves for? He ain't worried about fingerprints?
Or is he worried about protecting his hearing and the time?
But I know the FBI is sure worried about pushing their narrative.
Because they moved the gloves that was covering up the swastikas to take more photos.
To piss people more off.
State Representative Angie Nixon, who was on scene there just yesterday, saying the racist coward literally went to a historically black university to kill black students, got stopped, then redirected his hatred, racism, and violence to a local store where he told all the non-black people to get out and then proceeded to kill black people.
And in the next 2 days, multiple vigils are being held for the victims of this mass shooting.
So I posted comments on all the fuck-ups. The comments get removed, and the FBI are fixing them on the fly.
Above is an earlier broadcasting of their fuck-up. And after listening to me, the FBI fixed it up. Can you see the difference?
Jacoby Pittman is organizing a vigil that will be at the Dollar General where the victims were killed. That will be at 5:30 tonight.
Now, if the photo in the middle was not a dead giveaway, maybe you should watch my videos at 0.5 speed.
Now why are the first responders lined up in rows waiting? Waiting across the street away from the Dollar General. Some waiting so long they needed chairs to wait. As if they were waiting their turn.
Keep in mind the entire ordeal lasted 11 minutes.
No, these are not all crisis actors. These are real first responders. And the FBI are playing them for fools too. They are claiming this racial-motivated mass shooting is a training exercise.
But don't they see they are getting played? The FBI are just spreading more division with the people with this false flags. Divide and conquer. The FBI don't work for the people. They work for the elite.
Having the people fighting with each other and too busy to realize it is them the people need to be fighting.
Don't fall for it.
Black neighborhood reeling. Our community is grappling to understand why this atrocity occurred. I urge us all not to look for sense in a senseless act of violence. Our community is grappling to understand why this atrocity occurred. I urge us all not to look for sense in a senseless act of violence.
I urge us all not to look for sense in a senseless act of violence.
What the fuck? Don't think, people. It doesn't make sense because the racist is a crazy, not because the FBI are sloppy.
The nose is wider on the right. The eyes and eyebrows are a different shape. These are, I-generated faces. But that nose is 100% different.
Police say the suspect, 21-year-old Ryan Christopher Palmetter, first arrived at Edward Waters University, a nearby historically black university, at 12:48 p.m. and put on a bulletproof vest. Police using this video as part of their investigation, showing the suspect getting dressed before the shooting. Campus security confronts him, tells him to leave, and later notifies law enforcement. EWU flags down JSO officer and says there's a suspicious person on campus. He had an opportunity to do violence. In EWU, he did not.
So it's the security guard and the cop's fault for not stopping him right then and there, right?
Because they just let this suspicious man wearing body armor with a mask on and purple gloves go, and 5 minutes later he kills 3 at the dollar store.
At 1:08 p.m., surveillance video outside the Dollar General shows the shooter, without warning, firing 11 rounds into 52-year-old Angela Michelle Carr's Kia, killing her. The gunman then walks into the store and shoots 19-year-old employee Analt Joseph Legary Jr. And minutes later, after multiple witnesses flee out the back of the store, 29-year-old Gerald Gallion enters, the shooter killing him and missing his girlfriend.
So this retard and his girlfriend didn't hear any of the gunshots? The people running and screaming? With the shot-up Kia with a dead woman parked at the entrance. The couple both ignored all this and they walked in anyways? Really?
They really think you people are stupid.
I urge us all not to look for sense in a senseless act of violence.
At 1:14 and 23 seconds, the suspect enters the office. At 1:18, the suspect texts his father and says, "Use a screwdriver to get into my room." The father enters the room and finds a last will and testament of the suspect along with a suicide note on his laptop.
Again, why the fuck is he worried about leaving fingerprints? And wearing gloves?
The family eventually calling police, but by that time, the rampage was over. The shooter taking his own life as officers arrived on the scene. All of this carnage happening in a little over 10 minutes.
Again, it was done in 10 minutes. So why the fuck are their first responders form multiple districts throughout the state of Florida, all grouped up in rows across the street from the Dollar General at the gas station, looking like they are waiting in line for their turn?
Waiting so long, they brought out chairs.
Investigators finding writings on the gunman which they say contained racist and hateful ideology, as well as a painted swastika on one of the firearms. They say the suspect was involuntarily held for 72 hours at a mental health facility as a minor in 2017, but that he had no prior criminal history and purchased his guns, a handgun and an AR-15 style rifle, legally.
There was no criminal record, nothing. There was nothing that we could have done to stop him from owning a firearm, a rifle, or a handgun. There was no red flags.
Just a false flag. To groom the folks on upcoming gun laws and to further divide the people.
It was hatred for this individual who lived in another county and do a senseless act. It's just unacceptable.
The grieving community reflecting on the lives lost, like Gerald Gallion, a father of a 4-year-old daughter. Loved ones saying she was everything to him.
After hearing all the gunshots and people screaming and running, and seeing the dead bodies, I'm convinced this fellow walked in just wanting to die.
When you look at this situation, knowing that you have to tell your granddaughter, how do you make sense of all that?
I don't know. I'm just going to have to pray and ask God to give me the words and the strength to sit her down and tell her. Because she's so young. And all she knew was her daddy.
This doesn't sound like a community morning. This sounds and looks like an after party.
Give me the words and the strength to sit her down and tell her. Because she's so young. And all she knew was her daddy.
That grandmother tells me that they still haven't figured out how to tell Gerald's 4-year-old daughter the news. She's dreading the conversation.
Grandmother? At first, she was a daughter that lost her daddy.
Daddy! There were tears and deep grief outside the Dollar General store in the north. Daddy! Daddy! There were tears and deep...
As for this investigation, the FBI is now looking at this as a hate crime. Rebecca?
Alex Perche, thank you, Alex.
This is a hate crime. Our trusted media and public servants fucking hate the people. This is a false flag. Don't fall for it. And fuck the feds.